In doing research on the artist in this episode, I learned a whole lot of things that I didn't know about this guy. I'd seen him perform live. I knew his songs. I had some of his albums. I thought I knew all about him, but I did not know that he started out as a mobster's bookie, that he was a session musician, and that he even wrote advertising jingles. In addition, he wrote hit songs for the Turtles, toured with the Everly Brothers, and roomed with Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. Wow, and I just knew him as an excitable boy. Yeah, we're talking about Warren Zevon, so let's go stand in the fire. Let's drop the needle. Warren Zevon was born in Chicago, and he got one of his first gigs being a bookie for the mobster Mickey Cohen. After his parents got divorced, Warren drops out of high school, leaves Chicago, and moves to L.A. to be a folk singer, where he teams up with friends of his, and they become a duo, and they actually recorded a couple of singles that went nowhere. But then he wrote a couple of songs for the Turtles. In 1970, Warren Zevon releases his first album, Wanted Dead or Alive. But apparently he was very difficult to work with, and the album was a commercial and critical failure. So, licking his wounds, he took a job as being the musical director for the Everly Brothers, and he went on tour with them. By 1975, Warren Zevon was down on his luck again, and he was rooming with Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks of Fleetwood Mac, and it was there that he met Jackson Browne. And Jackson Browne decides to produce his next album, which is called Warren Zevon. There are many great guest artists on this album, including Jackson Browne, Stevie Nicks, Lindsey Buckingham, Phil Everly, Glenn Frey and Don Henley of the Eagles, Carl Wilson of the Beach Boys, and many more. But it's the songs and Zevon's talent that really sells this album. I like Hasten Down the Wind, Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me, Mohammed's Radio, I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, and Desperados Under the Eaves. Although the album could only reach 189, it did establish Warren Zevon as an up-and-coming songwriter and performer. The next year he releases the album Excitable Boy, and it's a hit, and it showcases his macabre sense of humor. I like Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner, Excitable Boy, and who could forget Werewolves of London, Ow! And Lawyers, Guns, and Money. As I said, the album is a hit, and it reaches number 8 on the charts. And in 1977, Linda Ronstadt has a hit covering Warren's song Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me on her album Simple Dreams. In 1980, Warren releases his next album, Bad Luck in Dancing School, and frankly, this is not one of his better albums, in my opinion. But the title track is good, and Jeannie Needs a Shooter was co-written by Warren and Bruce Springsteen. I may not have liked Bad Luck in Dancing School, but Warren follows it up with a great follow-up album, which is a live album called Stand in the Fire, which was recorded at the Roxy in LA. It is terrific. It contains a new song, Stand in the Fire, and great live versions of Jeannie Needs a Shooter, Excitable Boy, Mohammed's Radio, Werewolves of London, Lawyers, Guns, and Money, Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me, and I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. If you are unfamiliar with the music of Warren Zevon and you only have time or money to invest in one set of songs, this album should be what you listen to. It's terrific, and it really showcases Warren as a live performer. But his next album is a failure. It's called The Envoy. It doesn't chart, it doesn't sell, and his record company releases him from the contract. And Warren slides into drugs and alcohol. He doesn't release another album for 5 years, and frankly, during this period, I sort of lost track of him. In 1987, he releases the album Sentimental Hygiene. It contains a single, Reconsider Me. His next album is called Transverse City, and boy, he's got a bunch of guest artists on this with him, including Neil Young, Jerry Garcia, and Mike Campbell from the Heartbreakers. But it didn't sell, and so he was dropped by his second record label. He manages to get a new contract with another record label, and he releases an album which is strange even for Warren Zevon. It's called Hindu Love Gods. In the group, he's got 3 members of REM playing with him. Now, apparently this album was recorded a few night sessions where they were totally drunk, and it was never intended to be released. In 1981, Warren releases Mr. Bad Example. It contains the hit, Searching for a Heart, and I like Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. He tours and releases an album called Learning to Flinch, but given his financial straits at this time, it's a live album of his well-known songs, but it's really just him on acoustic guitar and keyboards. As a side note, Warren became friends with David Letterman and would often set in for Paul Schaefer as the band leader on Letterman's late night show. In 1985, he releases his 9th album called Mutineer. It contains many home recordings. I like Seminole Bingo, Piano Fighter, and Mutineer. Then he takes another 5-year break, and in the year 2000 releases an album called Life'll Kill Ya. As indicated in the album title, many of these songs are about death. Now, it's well known that Warren Zevon did not like doctors and avoided them for most of his life. Check out the title, Life'll Kill Ya. For my next trick, I'll need a volunteer. His cover of Stevie Winwood's Back in the High Life Again, and Don't Let Us Get Sick. Continuing on this morbid theme, 2 years later in 2002, he releases My Ride's Here, and again, a lot of the songs are about death. It gets mixed reviews, even with David Letterman singing vocals on one song, Hit Somebody, the hockey song. A few months after this album was released, Warren starts having shortness of breath and pains, and his friends finally convince him to go see a doctor. And when he does, he's diagnosed with lung cancer. Knowing that he has limited time left, he goes into the studio and records what would be his final album called The Wind. And you can definitely understand that he knows the end is very near. Titles include Dirty Life and Times, a cover of Bob Dylan's Knocking on Heaven's Door, Please Stay, and Keep Me in Your Heart. I like this record, but I must admit it's sometimes hard to listen to. And Warren won a Grammy for this album. Just a month after the release of The Wind, Warren Zevon died at the age of 56. Wow, what a life and career Warren Zevon had. Starting out as a bookie for a mobster in Chicago, writing hit songs not only for himself, but other artists as well, and putting on an incredible live performance. I hope that this episode has exposed you a little more to the art of Warren Zevon. And if you really only want to listen to one song, go dig up Werewolves of London. Ooh! As I've started to do now, since I can't put the music in the episodes, I'm creating playlists on Spotify where you can listen to some of the songs I've talked about. Here is the link on Spotify. Copy and paste it onto your browser to hear Warren Zevon's music. Once again, thanks for watching, and as always, keep it rocking. If you liked this episode, hit the like button, and you can also leave me a comment down below, and I'll respond to you. If you subscribe, we'll let you know when future episodes come out.